The war had lasted 73 years. 73 years of burning skies, shattered worlds, and the endless tide of the Karnax Swarm, a race of hive-minded, insectoid monstrosities that devoured ecosystems like wildfire. The Galactic Concord, once a proud alliance of over 50 intelligent civilizations, was down to fewer than a dozen active members. Every species had bled. Some had gone extinct. Others had been consumed so thoroughly that not even their languages remained in the archives. And now, on the fractured remains of Velcor Station, the Concord gathered in desperation. The war chamber was dim and cracked, flickering with failing lights and the hum of failing shields. Broken banners of extinct worlds hung limply above a holographic projection of the galaxy, over half of it shaded crimson, marking Karnax control. "We have no fleets left," croaked Ambassador Velthora, her voice thin, her green-scaled fingers trembling against her cane. "No planets we can defend. The Karnax are weeks, days from the core." The chamber erupted into argument. Military commanders, engineers, and diplomats all shouting, accusing, pleading. Someone suggested evacuating to another galaxy. Someone else threatened to kill them for even suggesting surrender. It was High Admiral Relker of the Shevex Clade who silenced the room. "There is one option we have never taken," he said, voice like grinding stone. "A final petition. To them." Silence dropped like a curtain. Dozens of eyes turned to the dark, unlit edge of the war map, where a small blue-green sat far from any major conflict. A planet named Sol 3. Earth. "Impossible," hissed Counselor Drash. "The Terrans have refused every invitation. They are isolationist, unstable. Their history is a cycle of war." "They are dangerous," said another. "Too dangerous. There are legends, rumors of what they did during their unification. Weapons that break causality. Wars fought and won in seconds. All the more reason," Velthora said quietly, "to ask them now." She turned her aged eyes to the projection. "They have watched us, observed our failures, and yet they've never moved. Why do you think that is?" Silence again. Some believed Earth's refusal was out of arrogance. Others, fear. A few believed humanity was simply not ready. But those who knew better, the ones who had studied the fragments of Earth's past transmissions, saw a different truth. Humanity was waiting, and perhaps judging. A vote was held. Unanimous. There were no other choices left. The transmission was simple. A galactic priority distress call, encrypted in every known protocol, and broadcast directly toward Sol 3's last known relay coordinates. To the people of Earth, the stars are dying. The swarm is endless. Will you stand with us? Then they waited. A day passed. Then two. Sensors across the Concord flagged the sudden shutdown of several Karnax attacks, as if they had suddenly stopped, disrupted, confused. On the third day, every Concord vessel, datapad, and station screen flickered to black. Then a single message appeared across every channel, every language, perfectly translated and time-synced. Transmission received. Deployment underway. Do not interfere. Do not follow. 5 hours. The words were plain. Cold. Delivered without fanfare or signature. No demands. No threat. Just intent. Within minutes, the Sol 3 relay went dark. All attempts to re-establish contact failed. "Is that a declaration of war?" someone asked. "No," Velthora said slowly, as she lowered herself into her chair, eyes never leaving the flickering stars. "It's a promise." The first sign wasn't visual, it was absence. Near the scorched edges of Karnax-controlled space, at Outpost Varelia, sensors began failing one by one. Long-range scanners glitched, then went dead. Distress pings from scout vessels came in as bursts of garbled static, like screams smothered in vacuum. Something was moving, but the stars offered no clue as to what. Commander Errolyn Vane, a veteran of 37 war fronts, stood frozen at the Outpost's central command platform. She watched the holographic star map as entire sectors dimmed and went dark, not from attack, but from interference. "Report," she snapped. Her technician, a furred of arc engineer, gulped. "Ma'am, Space itself is going quiet, like something is absorbing emissions across the EM band. We were blind. Then the ship appeared. No fanfare, no warp flare. Just there, as if it had always been hanging in the void, unnoticed until it chose to be seen. A single vessel, vast enough to eclipse a small moon. Pitch black, angular, smooth like obsidian, yet visibly shifting, its surface rearranging itself in fractal-like patterns. No visible engines, no weapons, no insignia except one, a red field, a white triangle centered within a black circle. A symbol that matched no known culture, except one. Human. Gasps echoed across the command deck. Is that it? Someone whispered. A second later, more vessels emerged. Without sound, without energy signatures. Dozens, then hundreds. A dark armada now loomed above Varelia's orbit. No escorts, no support craft, just monolithic ships like blades pointed at the void. They didn't answer hails. They didn't request docking codes. Instead, a pulse emitted across all channels, encrypted, yet instantly translated into each species' native tongue. A woman's voice, emotionless but clear, spoke 4 words. This is Commander Reyes. The signal widened. Soon every Concord ship, base, and surviving planet heard the same transmission. Humanity acknowledges your request. We have assessed the threat. Operation Terminal Wake is now live. You're ordered to disengage from all frontline combat zones. 5 hours. Observe. Do not interfere. Confusion rippled through the fleet. Disengage? They had fought tooth and claw for every inch of ground. Now, they were being told to retreat. Vane didn't move. Is this a joke? Her second-in-command asked. 5 hours? For what? Then came the first event. Sector J, 47 went completely silent. Not destroyed, just gone. The Karnax fleets stationed there vanished from all data streams. Not a single warp signature. Not even biological residue. Just absence. A minute later, Sector G19 lit up in brilliant, blinding light, then collapsed in on itself as if pulled through a pinhole. Gravimetric readings spiked off the charts, then zeroed. And then again, Rhea's voice. Hour 1 complete. Karnax presence reduced by 17%. Proceeding. The Concord Council was in chaos. Some demanded immediate communications. Others warned against interfering. Vane stood still, staring at the black fleet hanging above them, untouched by time or physics. What are they using? She asked. No one answered. Within the next 30 minutes, multiple Karnax strongholds, once impervious to planetary bombardment, imploded. Others simply stopped responding, as if their hive signals had been severed at the source. Entire Karnax units began convulsing, turning on each other, collapsing. Humans didn't fire volleys or launch fleets. They didn't land troops or raise flags. They moved in silence, like a surgeon removing rot from a body. Precise, clinical, merciless. One Concord commander on a recon cruiser reported witnessing a shimmer move through a Karnax warship, followed by all biological matter liquefying midair, while the hull remained intact. The footage didn't survive transmission. Back aboard Varelia, Commander Vane could only whisper, "They're not fighting the Karnax." A nearby officer turned to her. "Then what are they doing?" Vane's eyes narrowed as a second fleet of human vessels, smaller, sleeker, passed through a rift in space and dove directly into the heart of Karnax territory. They're dismantling them. Hour 2. The Karnax overmind began to scream. The first pulse originated from Hive Cluster Zerathex, deep within Karnax-controlled space. It was not a distress signal in any traditional sense. It was a psychic eruption, a wave of raw agony felt across multiple light years. Telepathic species across the Concord dropped to the floor, clutching their skulls, overwhelmed by the echo of billions of minds fracturing at once. In the observation deck of the Concord Arcship Leonar, engineers scrambled to translate data as ship-wide alerts blared. One of the psionic analysts, a Sarellian named Linkow, slumped against a wall, blood dripping from her nose. There, Turning the hive against itself, she gasped. Something's inside the lattice. A voice screaming forever. They can't shut it out. No one understood how. The Karnax had no central command to assassinate. They were their ships, their cities, their armies, flesh and steel linked in a unified intelligence stretching across half the galaxy. But now, that unity was unraveling. Hour 3. In one of the last functioning Karnax shipyards, their workers, grown, not born, began to malfunction. Limbs twitched. Sensory nodules swelled and burst. Surveillance footage, later intercepted by Concord spies, showed entire gestation chambers collapsing as their biomechanical frames exploded from internal pressure. In one horrifying broadcast, a Karnax warcast drone turned on its kin, tearing them apart with talons designed for planetary invasion. Not war. Panic. And from the humans, silence. Commander Reyes hadn't broadcast again. Her fleet held its cold position across multiple systems, doing little the Concord could see. No barges, no flashy weapons displays. But the effects were undeniable. More than 60% of the Karnax-controlled sectors had fallen quiet. In Concord Command Corps Alpha, Admiral Relker watched the unfolding collapse. The red map, the one that had haunted their alliance for decades, was turning gray. Entire Karnax zones were simply uninhabited. "How are they doing this?" he whispered. Beside him, Velthara watched in grim silence. She didn't pretend to know. She only said, "They aren't winning. They're correcting." Hour 4. The humans launched a single strike, finally visible to Concord eyes. 12 sleek black vessels deployed from the main fleet. Each released an orb-like construct trailing glowing filaments of unknown energy. These constructs descended into the void and began to spin, slowly at first, then faster, forming a vortex. Inside those spirals, space seemed to twist, reality bending, folding. Then impact, not an explosion, not a shockwave, a contraction. Entire Karnax worlds vanished, not destroyed but erased. No debris, no remnants, no signal. Only a vacuum so complete it defied thermodynamics. The fabric of space had been edited, as if the coordinates those hives occupied had been deleted from the universe's own memory. Back at Varelia, Vane stared at the sensor feed. "Was that a weapon?" her lieutenant asked. Vane shook her head. "No, that was surgery." Still no word from Reyes. Hour 5. The last Karnax stronghold, a megastructure orbiting the black star Zyberon, sent a final transmission. Translated by Concord AI, it contained only one line: "We surrender." In the agony. Then the overmind collapsed. All across the galaxy, surviving Karnax units fell limp. Some spasmed once and died. Others twitched for hours like puppets without strings. Their communication lattice, once so dense and unbreakable, had been unraveled, its language stolen, corrupted, and turned against itself. And at that moment, the human fleet moved. Not to celebrate, not to occupy. They left. No message, no trace, no warp signatures. One by one, the obsidian vessels blinked from the stars, vanishing just as silently as they had arrived. Then, finally, a final communique appeared on Concord channels. No logo, just text. Mission complete. Threat neutralized. Humanity requires no reward. Call us again only when all other lights have failed. And that was it. 73 years of war ended in 5 hours. And what the galaxy was left with, peace, came not with relief, but a question. What else were the humans capable of? Peace had returned, but it felt nothing like salvation. The galaxy, for the first time in generations, was quiet. No Karnax signals, no swarm movements, no screams across the stars. In the Grand Concord Assembly on Esthar Prime, the remaining leaders gathered, not to coordinate defense, but to grapple with what had just occurred. For the first time in 73 years, there were no new war fronts, no refugee fleets, no burning skies, just stillness, and a question that echoed through every chamber, spoken or unspoken. What has happened? Ambassador Velthara sat at the center of the Oval Council room, her scaled hands clasped tightly in her lap. Her bones still ached from the war, from the losses, but the ache now carried an edge of something stranger. Fear? Awe. She didn't know. "Are we sure they've left?" asked a counselor from the Osanari Quorum. "No probes? No shadow fleets? No residual effects?" "They're gone," said High Admiral Relker. "Our long-range sensors caught the last of their ship's folding space in a way we don't understand. It's like they never occupied the same reality as we did. And now they're elsewhere." Silence followed. Then a younger delegate leaned forward. Why would they refuse reward? Territory? Influence? Even a seat on this council? "Because," Vael'Thras said slowly, "they don't want to join us." "They never did." A long pause. "They watched us bleed for decades," she continued. "Measured our responses. Saw how we waged war. Saw the choices we made. They waited, not because they were unwilling, but because they were evaluating." The chamber fell deathly quiet. "You think they were judging us?" asked Relker. "I think they were ensuring that we earned their intervention, that our desperation was genuine, that we posed no threat to them when they finally acted." Across the galaxy, reconstruction began. Former Karnax worlds were declared quarantine zones, voided planets left behind like corpses. Scientists swarmed in. Engineers probed the remains of Karnax vessels still drifting in space, hoping to learn something, anything, from their sudden annihilation. But the damage was total. In most cases, even molecular traces had been scrubbed away, as if the humans had wielded not weapons, but erasers. Meanwhile, tales of humanity's arrival spread across every system. Children reenacted the fleet's silent descent. Priests incorporated the 5 hours into their doctrines. Poets spoke of the obsidian ships like angels of death, harbingers of divine judgment. And on dozens of planets, statues were commissioned in honor of Commander Reyes, whose face no one had ever seen. Still, no message came. No ship returned. No answer followed. Just that final line. "Call us again only when all other lights have failed." To many, it sounded like a warning. In secret chambers, militaries debated the long-term implications. Could the humans be trusted? Would they return? Was their power infinite? Or was it so precise and overwhelming that they needed only 5 hours because they prepared for 5 decades? In the ruins of the war, the Concord began to heal. But its unity was fragile. Fear of the Karnax had been replaced by fear of something greater. A silent guardian watching from the dark, whose judgment had spared them once. A year later, Vael'Thras stood on a balcony overlooking the restored surface of Velcor Station. She had aged rapidly since the war's end. The pain of survival was heavier than the struggle itself. But she felt something else now, too. A sense of perspective. Humanity had done what no species could, not just through power, but restraint. They had the capability to conquer the stars. But they chose to vanish into the dark. That choice haunted her more than their weapons. Footsteps approached behind her. "Ambassador," said a soft voice. Another signal. Not from Sol. From somewhere else. "You should see it." She turned slowly, a chill crawling up her spine. "What kind of signal?" The young analyst hesitated. "Encrypted. The pattern, it resembles the Karnax lattice. But it's different. Clean. Artificial." Vael'Thras closed her eyes. Were they back? Or was this something else? Some fragment left behind by the humans? She looked up at the stars. The same stars that had once been scarred by war. And she whispered to no one, "Please, not yet.